I don't know who needs to hear this, but the Mets are the best team in baseball, so we're going to talk about it. Let's talk all things Amazins with Mr. Amazing himself, your favorite Mets content creator, Tyler Ward. Ward is on the track. What's going on, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, Brandon. How are you?
I'm feeling great. I'm a little bit upset with myself that I didn't go to the game last night because I missed a great one. But before we start breaking everything down with the storylines around this team, obviously we have to talk about Mr. Juan Soto himself. He's heating up, playing his best month of baseball early in this season. So, what differences, or what are the biggest differences you've seen in Soto now compared to earlier in the season when he was going through whatever it is he was going through?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the beginning of May, Juan Soto has an OPS right around 940. So that's great to see. But the big question is, how did we get here, right? Because you and I both saw a really shaken Juan Soto, at least a Juan Soto that looked like a shell of what he typically was by taking way too many strike three calls, way too many first pitch strikes as well, pulling the baseball, topping the baseball over there for ground ball outs to the right side constantly, not spreading for all fields when Juan Soto at his best, in similarity to Pete Alonso and others, is at his best when he's heading for all fields. And that's what we're starting to see more now over the past 2 weeks, especially Brandon. And over the past 12 games alone, Juan Soto's batting just under 400 with a just under 1400 OPS, including 5 home runs, 13 walks, and 15 runs scored. So between the confidence now starting to build back up, you're getting that swagger. We all see Soto now in the box doing more of that padded Soto shuffle that every either Mets fan or Juan Soto fan certainly loves to see. So he just looks a lot more comfortable out there. He's having more fun. He's loose, and the bottle flip he did the other day, I think, was a great example of showing him starting to finally lighten up and look more like himself personality wise versus what we got to begin the year. It's very similar to what we saw back in spring training, and that's great to see.
Exactly, because you want a player like that to be comfortable being who he is. So if the shuffle is part of what you do, the stare downs is part of what you do. We brought you in here to be you. And I think like early in the season, he was trying to be something completely different than what he was. And I want to shout out Starling Marte because Soto shouted him out talking about how he's been a great vet, he's been a great teammate, and he's helping him get acclimated to the Mets way. A lot of guys, when you bring in a whale like that, a lot of teammates would kind of shy away from, having an open door policy or like, trying to help a guy get acclimated. But shout out to Marte, even though his minutes or his time on the field has been affected by Soto being here. But shout out to him for being a great teammate because we're seeing it all pay off. I want to talk about David Peterson, man, and the outing that he had because he became the first Met to throw a complete game since Luis Severino on August 17th of last year, and the first Mets lefty to toss a complete game shutout since Steven Matz on July 27th of 2019. Carlos Mendoza could have easily pulled him after the eighth inning. He was up to 97 pitches, but he let him keep cooking. So talk to me about what you liked about Peterson's night. And are you surprised that Mendoza didn't pull him?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. As a matter of fact, I was posting on X right away David Peterson's final line after 8 innings because I thought his night was done. And I quickly deleted it because I realized that there was no one else warming up in the Mets bullpen. And Peterson was still pacing back and forth, kind of getting set there to go back out there for the ninth inning. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that. I'm so glad it happened. Shout out to David Peterson. When you talk about a workhorse, when you think of one of the better southpaws in all the National League the past calendar year plus, there have been few that have done better than Peterson. Since returning from his hip surgery there in June of 2024, David Peterson in 200 plus innings so far this over that stretch has himself a 1.74 ERA or so. He has been unbelievably dominant, over 170 strikeouts over that span, huge ground ball rate, and Carlos Mendoza having that in-game feel. And I know, Brandon, you especially as an athlete can appreciate this a lot when you have a coach that really entrusts you, that has the confidence in yourself. After Peterson said to him after the eighth inning, I want to go back out there, I want to finish this, and Mendy gives that to him, knowing that if something goes awry, who knows, even in a 5-run lead, anything can happen in baseball, right? So you still give the ball back in the hands of David Peterson for that ninth inning. I think that's a great example of how Carlos Mendoza is when it comes to the human feel of the game and actually separating what the numbers say, where everything told you that Peterson should have been pulled from the ball game after just under 100 pitches. He goes back out there, finishes with a final line, a complete game shutty on 106 pitches. That's all you can ask for from your manager and from your southpaw starter.
I want to give him his flowers talking about Carlos Mendoza because you don't win 5 straight without great coaching. You don't get a guy like a Juan Soto out of his slump without being patient with him and doing and saying all the right things that Mendoza's done. I feel like he's making all the right decisions right now. So would you say he's kind of your early favorite for Coach of the Year? They got the best record in baseball, but do they have the best manager in baseball?
Considering the fact that I firmly thought Mendoza was slighted last year on winning NL Manager of the Year, as we know, he fell short there to Pat Murphy of the Milwaukee Brewers. Crazy how Murphy was a replacement for Craig Counsell last year, and Mendoza was option B for the Mets after Counsell said no to the Mets, and Counsell didn't even make playoffs last year, but enough the tangent. Point is, though, is that Carlos Mendoza, who just fell short of winning Manager of the Year a year ago for a Mets team that went from 11 games below 500 to getting all the way to the NLCS, already 20 games above 500 so far this season. As long as the Mets produce the way that we expect them to now with their great play consistently, all the more reason as to why Mendoza should, in fact, be NL Manager of the Year if this pace can continue.
All right, best record in baseball without grimace, no OMG songs, no gimmicks, just some really good baseball being played out in Queen. But, Wardy, is this sustainable for this squad? Or can they even turn this thing up even more?
I think it's more the latter, if I'm being honest with you, Brandon. And the reason why I feel that confident, not only as a Mets fan, but just as a baseball fan in general, is because you still are waiting the wings of Frankie Montas and Shamanaya to return this rotation. Two pivotal pieces to the puzzle for a pitching staff that's still best in baseball right now at the time of us talking. Then you add in bringing back Jesse Winker, Jose Siri, and anything else the Mets do at the traded line, and Juan Soto getting more and more of a groove. They're playing great baseball right now, but I would firmly make the argument that they're still not near close to playing their best overall baseball on the year. So I think the sky's the limit with this team right now. I really do.
Our producer right here, he's a real big Yankees guy, and he's like, he did not want to hear what you just said just now. But Yankees, sorry about that out there in the Bronx. The best baseball team in the majors is out in Queens. Wardy, appreciate you coming in, man. See you soon.
Thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure.